Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that about 2 informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And damn, I forgot this guy's name. I think it was William Sullivan. Let's talk about him. Let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing. Work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Now, this William Sullivan guy, who I have literally never heard of before this day. People are always like, why do you always say that? You got to know who they are. You're in the fitness world. Guys, I'm in the fitness world. I don't keep up with this IFBB nonsense. I don't care. I really am not interested. I don't look up to these guys. I don't respect them. I don't care what they do. But when they do something newsworthy, I guess the rest of the fitness world cares about it. So this guy, men's physique pro, had some sort of call into the police. They called him in because of, I guess, a domestic violence situation. And he apparently had beaten up his wife or girlfriend, duct taped her up, threw her in the trunk of his car, and went for a joyride. Well, he was driving around and the police found him with pounds and pounds of cocaine marijuana in his car. And I think they had estimated the worth of it at $3 million street value. So this guy's cruising around taking a joyride in his car after beating the hell out of his girl, abducting her, throwing her in the trunk, and he's just driving around with $3 million worth of drugs in his car. You know, we got some interesting people that come out of the bodybuilding world, don't we? And this is kind of one of the things that I always remind guys. They're always like, man, the hardcore bodybuilding world. You guys look at what the hardcore bodybuilding world is like. You need to factor in you are dealing with a demographic of people who generally suffer from some major mental issues, because the majority of people are not going to do that to themselves. All right? A person who's very secure in who they are, a strong sense of identity, the overwhelming majority of those people would never consider altering their bodies to that extreme. Right? They wouldn't do it. And any of you guys are like, well, they do it to get chicks. No, they don't. Chicks don't find any. Chicks don't even usually find the men's physique competitors attractive at contest time. It has nothing to do with that. These people get involved in this stuff due to body image disorders. Oftentimes, sexual orientation confusion is very, very rampant in these circles. Very rampant. And I'm not judging that. I'm just calling it for what it is. You see people get involved in this. You have people who, again, suffer from usually some sort of identity disorder of some type. Very common is the norm in this demographic of people who get involved in all the hardcore bodybuilding. Then you get so involved with all the illegal drugs because you have to use illegal drugs. Even the men's physique guys are all pumping 6, 7, 12 different illegal drugs to get that look. You got the whole party scene, everyone doing drugs in these party scenes. Even Junkie Ward has told you guys about that. You know, the Crypt Keeper Junkie Ward talks about all the party drugs. Rich Piana used tons of party drugs. It's in all these circles. And at a certain point, you have to understand this is why we see so much craziness come out of this community. You have people who already have their own set of issues. They get heavily involved in the underworld. Clandestine activities, because it's kind of part and parcel to being involved in this world. You have to be. All the party drugs, people who already have issues, they get on all these various mind-altering substances, because let's be honest, high doses of anabolics will alter your personality. They will alter your mind. They will alter your mind. And that's the weird ideas that people have. You know, they'll always be like, oh, this lifter or whatever, they're a big pussy or whatever. And it's like, no, man, they're usually penning substances that make them not a pussy, even if they were beforehand. Factor that in, guys. They don't have the mentality you think they do. When you're using large amounts of androgens, their mindset is no longer, generally not one of being a pussy. Throwing that out there, because that does come up a lot when people will say this about these various guys. Usually not the case. Then you throw in all the party drugs, street drugs. Yeah, you're going to see some crazy behavior. And it's really, we see a lot of it, and a lot of it gets in the news. But people need to understand, like, well, there are quite a few of them, but, you know, it's not every day. Yeah, but there aren't that many people in this world. This is a very, very small world. Yet we see a high number of incidents of crazy things like this happening. All this craziness you see is actually very common very, very common when you consider how small of a demographic the hardcore, the really hardcore bodybuilding, men's physique, all that scene is. And that even carried over into, you know, some of the WWF, and we've had crazy stuff there. I mean, we've had some pretty crazy, serious murders and all sorts of other major violent acts happen coming out of this community. And that's what it comes down to. All the crazy amount of drug abuse that gets involved, the lifestyles that this is all about. And then you end up seeing, because so many people involved in the training world need very large amounts of illicit substances, not uncommon for them to switch over to a life of crime to be able to afford it. It's really common. Not gonna lie, guys, I've known more than my fair share of hardcore bodybuilders in my lifetime. The number of them, my personal experience, and this is just an N1, this is my representation based upon my life experience. 1 in 4 of them were drug dealers. All right, out of all the really serious bodybuilders I've met in my life, 1 in 4 of them were drug dealers. And I don't just mean anabolics. You get to know them, get to chatting with them. Most of them, it's really common. It's really common. And that is what it is. That's just part of that life. That's just part of that life. That's a big part of what that world is about. And it should be no surprise when you see people who oftentimes are so involved in that, who we see this craziness come out, because we have people with various identity disorders, personality disorders. I mean, narcissism, which is, you know, being a narcissist is a personality trait. Having a body image disorder, eating disorders, all these disordered thinking and personality disorders that is extremely prevalent and way overrepresented in this community. You start throwing drugs in the mix that alter people's personality and their perception into a demographic like that, it's kind of a recipe for a disaster. I'm surprised that we only get a few of these a year, these big events like this that make it in the news. Surprised there's not a hell of a lot more of them. Surprised there's not more of them when you really think about what all goes on. All the stuff I've seen around this community, all the gay prostitution, the G4P, massive amount of drug distribution, massive amount of drug use, it's all there. Plenty of people talked about it, so people need to stop going, you're just making that up. There's tons of people who've blown the whistle on all this. All right, I'm not anywhere near the top of the list of that, not even remotely close, but I've seen my share of it. And I've talked to a number of people who've seen their share of it, who've seen different things than I've seen and heard stories over the years, as I've been around enough of these circles over the years. It's out there. It is what it is. But, you know, the whole fitness world, the online fitness world, they want to whitewash it, don't they? They want to make it look like all these guys are, well, you know, they're good guys. And you'd be surprised. There are a lot of people out there who I know are really, really bad dudes, who the whole internet is like, oh man, no, they're a good guy. They really weren't. They really aren't. And I'm not going to get into any of them. We all know one that has been deceased, who I know from firsthand accounts that he was a way, way worse person than what's been ever presented publicly. People who might be surprised if they really knew. Firsthand stories I've heard from people who were there, or who were victims of things that person did. Again, it's common in this world, but what do you expect? What do you expect out of a world where people have massive, it's known for personality disorders, identity disorders, everything else, when tons of drugs come into the mix? You're going to expect some craziness. You're going to expect some violence. You're going to expect some insane behavior. And there's some insane behavior. Guy beats his girl, ties her up, throws her in the trunk of his car with $3 million in street drugs in his car, and just goes driving around. Even knowing the police have probably been calling, he just goes for a joyride. Craziness. Absolute craziness. But that's the bodybuilding world for you right there. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.